If you'd like to join the classes live in the masjid, then click on the link below. Inshallah, it will take you to a Telegram group that has the details of all the class timings, the dates, the days, the addresses and the locations of the masjid. So click on that link and hopefully we'll see you there, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We have the Google Classroom started for the sisters. If a sister can please just send a message or a comment in there as a test, just so I can see that it is working, inshallah. The classroom is there, inshallah, for you guys to engage. Carrying on our class in Fiqh, we're now going to take Ghusl. We're going to take Al-Ghusl because we said in Tahara, Tahara is really what? It's about Raful Hadith and Izalatul Najas. It's about uplifting a state of impurity or a physical impurity. We said the states of impurity, which are known as hadith, are of two types. There's what? Hadathul Akbar and Hadathul Asghar. We said there's major impurity and minor impurity. Up until now, we learned only about minor impurity. We learned what gets you into minor impurity. And we said it's one of four things. Right? One of four things, according to the madhab, puts you in a state of minor impurity. When it comes to what takes you out of the minor impurity, we said it's what? It's wudu. So now we've done minor impurity. We're going to, inshallah, now embark upon major impurity, which is called Hadathul Akbar. Now, major impurity is uplifted through Al-Ghusl. It's uplifted through Al-Ghusl, which is to have a wash. Some call it a bath, some call it a shower, whatever you call it, but it's a full body wash. That's what it is. When it comes to studying Al-Ghusl, there are what? There are 5 things that we're going to take. There are more than 5 things. In fact, there's one very important 6th thing that we're not even going to touch on. We're going to leave it for the next book, inshallah. But the 5 things are what? Number 1, the asbab, the reasons that make the ghusl wajib. The same way we took the reasons that make the wudu something that you have to do, wajib for when you have to pray salah, the reasons that make the ghusl wajib also. How many things we said make wudu wajib? If you want to pray your salah? How many things necessitate you have to do wudu? 4 things. What are they? Ahmed, what are the 4 things? If you could tell me with memory. What are the things that cause you to have to do wudu? Anything that comes at the front and back passage. Touching the opposite gender. As long as it's not from touching the opposite gender, that is foreign to you. Okay, good. Number 3. No, that necessitates ghusl, right? Pardon? We didn't say sleeping. We didn't say sleeping. Touching your own or someone else's private part. Zawal al-aql, for your consciousness to go, for your aql to go. Zawal al-aql. Sleeping falls under it. Now, for example, at the beginning he said passing wind, right? And then he corrected that. He said anything that comes out the front and back, because then you're going to say passing wind. Then you're going to say urinating. Then you're going to say feces. Then you're going to say whatever have you. So you mentioned the categories. So there are 4 reasons. There are 4 things that make you lose your wudu. 4 things that put you in a state of minor impurity. There are 6 things that place you in a state of major impurity. The 6 things are as follows. Number 1, khuruj al-mani, for you to ejaculate. For you to ejaculate, and for the ejaculatory fluid to come out of you. It's the same one. It's the same one.
What do you mean?
So what was the question you asked?
Is there a difference between ejaculation and pre-seminal fluid?
Pre-seminal fluid is something else.
Okay, there's a difference.
Yeah, okay. So we'll come to it, inshallah. We're going to mention it today. So there's ejaculatory, there's seminal fluid basically, for a person to ejaculate. Okay? Number 2, for a person to penetrate. And when we say penetrate, we mean with there, or to be penetrated, if it's a woman. Yeah? So basically, they call it the meeting of the two private parts. The meeting of the two private parts. التقاء الختانين. The meeting of the two uncircumcised parts. That's what they say. But I'm going to explain each one. I just want you to write down the list first. The third thing is al-maut, death. These first 3 are for men and women. A man and a woman, they both share. Do men die? Do women die? Do men, are they involved in intercourse? Women are also involved in intercourse. They're the recipients of it. Do men and women both ejaculate? Yes, they do. So the first is what? The first 3 are for both men and women. The last 3 are for women alone. The first one is al-hayd, which is a woman coming onto her menses, a woman coming onto her period. The second thing is nifas. Nifas is postnatal bleeding. After a woman gives birth, she will bleed. She will bleed for usually a certain amount of days. She will bleed for a certain amount of days. Does that make sense? And then the last thing is al-wilada, which is childbirth. Childbirth necessitates al-ghusl. Does that make sense? Childbirth necessitates al-ghusl. Okay. Number 4 was al-hayd, her menses, her period. And nifas, postnatal bleeding, the bleeding that comes after having a child. And number 6 is having the child itself. Let's go through each one, inshallah. Khuruj al-mani. For a person to what? Ejaculate. The things that come out of a person's private part are what? Urine. Urine is not ejaculation. It is not ejaculatory fluid. That breaks your wudu. It doesn't necessitate ghusl. There's also something called al-wadhi, which is something that comes out, it's usually like some men, they have like an illness and things come out of their private part. Sometimes if it gets very cold, or if he like picks up something very heavy, something might come out of him. There's impure. It's impure and a person would have to do wudu if that happened. There's also something called madhi. Madhi, so there's urine, which is called al-bawl. There's al-wadhi, which is something that comes out of a man's private part, which is not urine, but it comes out of their private part sometimes due to like an illness they might have or whatever have you. Then there's something called al-madhi. 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 Al-madhi is when a man is aroused, he is in a state of sexual arousal, and he hasn't ejaculated, but something comes out of his private part. Something comes out of his private part. This is impure and it requires him to do wudu. Okay? It's impure and it requires him to do wudu. These 3 that I've just mentioned to you, al-bawl, al-wadhi, al-madhi, these 3 things, they come under what? Al-kharij min as-sabilain. They come under that. When we took wudu, we said anything that comes out the front and back passage breaks your wudu, puts you in a state of minor impurity. These 3 come under that. These three, they come under that. The fourth one is al-mani. Mani is what? It's ejaculatory fluid. This is what comes out at the end of sexual arousal. It's accompanied by what is known as the state of climax. If you understand, you get my point. Yes? So when a person is basically engaging in activity with their spouse, it comes at the end of that activity. It's basically the end of the show. What's the difference between al-mani and al-madhi? I.e., what's the difference between ejaculatory fluid and pre-ejaculatory fluid? The difference is that ejaculatory fluid makes you have to do ghusl. Pre-ejaculatory fluid, i.e. madhi, you have to do wudu. You have to do wudu. The second difference between al-mani and al-madhi is that al-mani is tahir, it's pure. Ejaculatory fluid is pure. Seminal fluid is pure. So it doesn't matter if it's on your clothes. It doesn't matter if it's on your clothes. Al-madhi, which is pre-ejaculatory fluid that comes up before the state of arousal. Sorry, not arousal, the state of climax. That's impure and that cannot be on your clothes. That's najis. That has to be taken off your clothes. Seminal fluid can be on your clothes and you can pray. Pre-ejaculatory fluid can't be on your clothes. That's on a person's boxes. They have to clean those boxes. And they have to what? It breaks your wudu because it comes out of you. It breaks your wudu. And number two, it's impure. So even if you've done wudu, it's still on you or it's on your clothes. So you have to now get rid of it. Does that make sense? Why? Some people looked at me shocked. Why is it that the seminal fluid is not impure? Why is the seminal fluid pure? تفضل. Right, but there's... Got them on? The human beings are pure. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-mu'min la yanjus, or kama qal. The believer never becomes impure. The believer never becomes impure. Just the believer? What about the kuffar? Right, so Allah said, Inna al-mushrikuna najis. The people of shirk are impure. Allah Azza wa Jal here didn't mean their bodies are impure. He meant their hearts are impure. Remember we took at the beginning, we took the taharatul qalb, the purity of the heart and the purity of the body. The purity of the body is the most important purity, which the Muslim has, the mushrik doesn't. The kafir doesn't. His heart is impure. He's a mushrik. He came with shirk. Does that make sense? So when Allah Azza wa Jal told us that the people of shirk are impure, He meant what, subhanahu wa ta'ala? The scholars mentioned that what's meant from this, wallahu a'lam, is that it's that they are spiritually impure, not they are physically. That's why if a kafir is holding your hand whilst you're praying, if a kafir is touching you while you're praying, you can pray. But you can't pray if there's feces on you. Does that make sense? So then Bani Adam, the children of Adam, are pure. Does that make sense? Allah said, لَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا بَنِي Adam. We've honored the children of Adam. So the human being is pure. The human being started from where? Seminal fluid. So how can seminal fluid be pure? Impure. How can it be impure when that's the beginning of a human? Does that make sense?
You say seminal fluid or pre-ejaculatory fluid?
I'm talking about seminal fluid.
So which one's pure?
Seminal fluid.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, seminal fluid. Seminal fluid is pure. Pre-ejaculatory fluid is impure. Ejaculatory fluid is pure. No. Wait, one second. Go on. Huh? Remember when I said there was a sixth category that we're not even going to touch on? It comes under that. So we'll leave it for Matan Nabi Shuja', inshallah. Unless we have a murtad with us and he wants to take a shahada again, I can quickly answer it for you. No? Alhamdulillah. Allah protects us from apostasy. Assalamu alaikum. In fact, we're probably going to discuss it next week, this particular mas'ala in the tayammum lesson. Let me explain one more time for you, akhi. So, we have al-madhi, pre-ejaculatory fluid. Many, ejaculatory fluid, i.e. seminal fluid. At the time a man ejaculates. Yeah? Ejaculatory fluid, pure. Pre-ejaculatory fluid, not pure. And we mentioned the reason why it's pure is why? The human being is made from it and the human being is pure. So how can it be impure? There's other differences. For example, pre-ejaculatory fluid, it comes out in drips. Ejaculatory fluid comes out in a, like, what's the word? In one go. What'd you say? What'd you say? Gush. Now, I don't think that's accurate either. It comes out in one go. Does that make sense? It doesn't come out in drips, it comes out in one go. Okay, good. Assalamu alaikum. Al-wadi is a man is ill. Maybe he's got an illness and he drips out of his private part. It's not because of urine. It's not when he's urinating. It's not because he's aroused. It's some other reason. So if he's got liquid coming out of his private parts, it's not blood, it's not urine, it's not pre-ejaculatory fluid. What is it? It might be al-wadi. Does that make sense? Don't worry too much if you don't understand al-wadi right now. The details of it will come to it, inshallah. Now, pre-ejaculatory fluid can come how? Sorry. Ejaculatory fluid, i.e. seminal fluid, al-mani, it can come out without intercourse. Does that make sense? It can come out without intercourse. A man could have a wet dream, a woman could have a wet dream. Right? A person may bring it out themselves, which is not something that's allowed. The issue of masturbation is not something that's not something that's allowed. Why? Because Allah Azza wa Jal, when He talked about the issue of the private parts, He said the ones who are going to make it to paradise, people of paradise are what? الَّذِينَ هُمْ بِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. The ones who protect their private parts, except from their wives and what the right hand possesses. Allah says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, anyone who oversteps those two exceptions, the wife and what the right hand possesses, Allah says, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْعَادُونَ. That person's gone overboard, he's transgressed. So a person's hand is what? It's not from his wife, is it? That's his own hand. And it's not what the right hand possesses, i.e. a slave, which we don't have right now. So the only option a man has is his wife. Anyone who goes above and beyond that is sinning. But if a person done it, he has to do ghusl now. So for any reason, if a person ejaculates. Okay, iltiqa al-khitanayn. The second thing is what? The meeting of the two private parts. This is called penetration. Okay? This is called penetration. Penetration will necessitate a person having to do what? It will necessitate a person having to do what? It will necessitate a person having to do ghusl and put him in a major state of impurity, even if he didn't ejaculate. A lot of people think that as long as you don't ejaculate, you don't have to do ghusl, and that's wrong. The mere touching of the private parts, the mere meeting of the private parts necessitates ghusl. The question is, what does it mean for the private parts to meet? Notice I said not touch. What does it mean for them to meet? When you say tip, what do you mean? Tip literally just means the tip. Pardon? The what? I didn't know. It was referred to as the... the head. It's referred to as the head of the male member. Okay? For the head of the male member to be entered inside of the woman means that he now has to do ghusl. So that means if the head doesn't enter, is the ghusl wajib. The private parts they touch, but the head doesn't dissipate inside of her. Is the ghusl wajib then? No, it's not wajib. Only if the head enters inside of her. This is called taghyib al-hashafa. Taghyib al-hashafa. This is called the head disappearing inside of her. Imam al-Suyuti rahimahullah has a kitab called Al-Ashbah wal-Nadha'ir. In this book he brings principles of fiqh and whatnot and so on and so forth. Things that are similar but they're different. He's got a whole chapter on this issue of taghyib al-hashafa, which is penetration. And by penetration we mean the head. Right? The head completely being inserted inside of the woman. He's got a whole chapter on it. And he mentions many principles pertaining to penetration. It's sad that people get married and they don't even know the rulings that are connected to them and what they do with their spouse, right? But what's shocking is that at the beginning of that chapter, he mentions 150 different rulings connected to penetration. Connected to the hashafa, taghyib al-hashafa. One of those 150 is what we just took now. That means ghusl wajib. So how many do we have left? 149. A man, a woman should know what these things are. And by the way, it's not just relevant to married people, because sadly people do this outside of marriage. Right? So this is stuff that people need to know. Stuff that people need to know. Anyway, let's move on to the third. The third is al-maut, death. Death makes the ghusl wajib. That's why we wash the dead body, right? We do ghusl of the dead body. Pay attention. The only exception here is the shaheed, the martyr, the one who dies in battle. His body's not washed. His body's not washed. Question. We know that the martyrs are of many types. A woman who dies giving birth is a martyr. Someone who dies because of an illness in the stomach is, inshallah, a martyr. A person who dies because, of all these reasons, someone who drowns is a martyr. These are all martyrs. Do you wash their bodies, Sheikh? Why don't you wash their bodies? They're martyrs. Yeah, the martyrs are of two types. There's the shaheed fil ma'araka. There's the martyr who dies in battle. Then there's the shaheed which is not in the battle. The martyr, the Prophet ﷺ told us these people, they get the reward of being martyrs. They get the reward of being martyrs. But they are not like the martyr who died in battle. That's the only one who gets what? That's the only one who doesn't get washed. When the COVID thing happened, people were saying these people have died as martyrs. So they were what? They were not even washing some of their bodies. To show you the levels that ignorance takes you. The levels that ignorance takes you is a right of a person that you wash his body after he died. They're just burying people, man. Because they said, oh, he's a shaheed. Firstly, we don't even know if the person is shaheed. Does that make sense? Number two, if it was a shaheed, or if a person died in a particular type of way, then it would only be applicable to the one who dies in the battlefield. So these first three, the ghusl, the washing, the bath, the shower, whatever you want to call it, the full body wash, is obligatory on both men and women. The last three are obligatory only on women, and there's three things. Number one is al-hayd, menses, when she's on her menses. And we'll discuss the menses inshallah when we come to the chapter of menses. So what is menses? The difference between the different types of blood that come out of her, which is called istihada, which is the irregular bleeding, which is not part of a menstrual cycle. We'll talk about that later. But it's only if it's her menses. If she's on her menses, the menses make the ghusl wajib on her. If it's the irregular bleeding, it doesn't make the ghusl wajib. It doesn't make the ghusl wajib. Some women, they bleed outside their menstrual cycle. They may even bleed for long outside their menstrual cycle. That is not her menses. That does not make the ghusl wajib on her. It does not. She has to do wudu. Why does she have to do wudu? Because it falls under kharij min as-sabil. That which comes out of the front and the back. But the details of that will come to it, inshallah. Also, you have a question? Yes.
Is it true that obviously it's good enough to wash yourself 3 times on the right and on the left?
Yes.
And each body part, but I've heard that if you just wash yourself generally, even though it's not good enough to do, they still count as a ghusl.
We're coming to it. Yeah, you're going to hear it in a second, inshallah. Good question. Very good question. Nifas.
I don't understand how ejaculation is part of it, but it requires also.
Yeah.
I don't understand. But if you ejaculate,
You don't have to understand it right now, you just have to submit. Nifas. Nifas is postnatal bleeding. A woman gives birth and she bleeds. How long she bleeds for? The details of this bleeding, again, we're going to come to it when we talk about the woman's menses. So we'll come to the details of it then. But just know if a woman bleeds after giving birth, it's not menstrual blood. But that blood, it means that she can now not pray. And when the nifas ends, and when the menses end, she has to do ghusl. Does that make sense? Okay, come back to the issue of the mens. Yes, okay, good. And the third thing is al-wilada, giving birth. What's the difference between giving birth and the postnatal bleeding after the birth? The difference is this, is that if a woman gave birth and she never bled, she would still have to do ghusl. She would still have to do ghusl. She never bled, but she still has to do ghusl. If she bleeds, she has to do ghusl, right? But if she never bled, she still has to do ghusl. What's the dalil for that? That giving birth to a child necessitates a wash, even if she doesn't bleed. And we're not talking about the blood that comes out of her at the time of birth. We're talking about the blood that comes out of her after birth. What is the evidence that giving birth to a child makes you have to do al-ghusl? Beautiful. Allah barik. If seminal fluid comes out of you, do you have to do ghusl? Yes. The baby is basically what seminal fluid was. That baby was seminal fluid. It just changed now. It's basically developed seminal fluid. Does that make sense? So the seminal fluid that came out of the man made him have to do ghusl, right? That seminal fluid is what? Is really the beginning of a human being. It's the beginning stages of a human. So now that the woman's giving birth to a child, that's the end stage of the seminal fluid. The seminal fluid is the beginning of the human. The human is the end of the is like the final stage of the seminal fluid. As in the seminal fluid, it goes in, conceives, it goes through stages, and eventually what in the womb is a baby, and then the baby comes out. So the scholars done qiyas and said, if seminal fluid comes out, makes you have to do what? A ghusl, then a baby coming out would have to make you do ghusl.
So you wouldn't call a baby semen, would you?
We're not saying semen.
So how is it because it's made of?
No, we're saying the baby, it started off a seminal fluid, right?
Yeah.
That seminal fluid was the baby, or part of the baby, right? So when that came out of the man, it made him have to do ghusl, right? Okay, so now that same thing went into the woman and has now come out of her, but it's just come out of her as a more developed. It's more developed now, but really, it's what that thing was that now has just changed. Its form has changed, but it's still come out now. So that necessitates the ghusl. I just want to mention here something, inshallah, which should be a good advice to the sisters. I know when it comes to the issue of marriage and intercourse, and ghusl, this tends to be an issue that a lot of women have. Does that make sense? Because when you have to do a ghusl, you have to completely wash your hair, and the women, they get frustrated because they have to wash their hair and drying their hair and whatnot, and so on and so forth. And obviously a woman, she has to obey her husband's call to the bedroom, right? If the husband calls her and she doesn't obey that call, that woman, she will be cursed by the angels all night. She'll be cursed by the angels all night. In fact, she'll be cursed, as another narration shows, until she comes back to him. If she stays 6 months depriving her husband of intercourse, she'll be cursed. And she'll be the recipient of this until she comes back to her husband. Okay? And it's very sad that in this day and age, people, they water these things down, as in Allah Azza wa Jalla gave us a Sharia. Does that make sense? And the Sharia is to the complete wisdom and maximum wisdom. I was listening, not watching, listening to a discussion that a husband and wife were having, right? Two kuffar that give relationship advice. So it was interesting, the discussion. So I wanted to hear the kafir perspective. For example, the kuffar, they recognize that a man has more desires than women, right? A man has more desires than women. They recognize this. So this husband and wife were talking, and they were basically talking about the fact that the husband, he generally requires it more than his wife does. So they were saying that they engage with each other twice a week. But he wants it more. He wants it 4 times a week. So she says, look, I've got no problem with him going and watching filthy things online so that he can satisfy himself. And actually, that's bad, but it gets worse. Upon research, I found that how common it is amongst kuffar to have this notion of an open relationship where they go and get whatever they want from outside, but this is the one that he loves. This is the one he has children with, but he satisfies his desires there. So the kuffar even recognize that it's needed, but because they don't have a sharia to guide them in terms of what's moral, what do they say? They say, go and get it online, go get it from outside, go wherever you want. The sharia said no. It says you can't get it outside your wife. But because it's a need that the man has, the woman has to what? She has to comply. The details of this we'll go to when we come to Kitab al-Nikah. We'll come to it. But I wanted to mention this right now because there's a glad tiding for the sisters who are patient in this regard. Because like I said, one of the primary issues for a lot of women is the ghusl element. That for a man to do a ghusl, he's in and out, right? For a woman, it's a bit longer. She has to wash her hair, come out, you have to dry her hair. And it's a bit longer. Does that make sense? So in the verse when Allah Azza wa Jalla talked about the women having to ghusl, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ قل هو أذن فاعتزلوا النساء في المحيض ولا تقربوهن حتى يطهرن فإذا تطهرن فأتوهن من حيث أمركم الله. When the woman, she does her tahara, she does her ghusl, Allah said you can come to her from wherever. You can have intercourse and intimacy with her. Does that make sense? Where Allah Azza wa Jalla allowed you. You can't come from the back passage, but you can come from the front in whatever position. Okay? حيث أمركم الله. Then Allah said, إن الله يحب التوابين ويحب المتطهرين. Allah said Allah loves the ones who make tawbah, and Allah Azza wa Jalla loves the ones who make tahara. So then Allah said subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the woman does her ghusl, you can go and have intercourse with her. She has done her ghusl, now she has to go back and do a ghusl again. In case the person for her, this ghusl is getting a bit long. Allah said, Inna Allah yuhib at-tawabin. Allah loves the ones who do tawbah. Inna Allah yuhib at-tawabin. And then Allah said, wa yuhib, and He loves the ones who do their tahara. So this is a way for the woman to not just earn the love of her husband by giving him and satisfying him with what he needs. It's not just a way for her to do that. It's not just a way for her to earn the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jalla by obeying her husband. But also she can earn the love of Allah Azza wa Jalla directly just by having a good attitude and going there and doing her tahara happily. So don't just treat it as a chore at the end of a thing in the house. Treat it as what? As a way to get closer to Allah. You should, a woman and a man, whilst doing ghusl, whilst doing the wudu, whilst doing any tahara generally, should feel that I'm earning Allah's love here. This is something Allah loves, and Allah will love me after this. So don't consider it as a chore, as something that's long. No, it's something beautiful. And Allah Azza wa Jal, because we all claim we love Allah. Will Allah love you though? Allah Azza wa Jal loves those who do tahara. So that woman, she's loved by Allah Azza wa Jal because she's an obedient wife. Because what? She's a slave that does tahara. So it's something that shouldn't upset women. It shouldn't frustrate them. It should actually make them eager. Because they're going to earn the love of their husband and they're going to earn the love of their Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the 6 reasons why we do what? Why we do ghusl, inshallah. Now we're going to move to the conditions of ghusl.
You partake in a relation with the spouse before you can do that again. The wife has to
No. So the brother asked a good question. In order for a man to go back and have intercourse with his wife after he had it once, does she have to do ghusl? No. The reason why the verse mentions she done ghusl, because I think that's where the question comes from, is because it's in the context of her menses. So you cannot have intercourse with her because her menses stopped. She has to do ghusl, then you can have intercourse. And a man can have intercourse with his spouse as many times as he wants between what? The first and the next, without ghusl. It's just that when she needs to pray now, she has to go do her ghusl. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Now we said we're going to talk about 5 things pertaining to ghusl, right? So we've done the first one. We're going to do the second one after the adhan, inshallah. When we come to the second thing that we're going to talk about today, we said there's 5 things we're going to discuss, inshallah. The second thing is the conditions. The conditions for ghusl, which is the thing that comes before the ghusl is done. These are exactly the same as the ones for wudu. So go back to your notes. Whatever the conditions for wudu are, they're the same for al-ghusl. Pay attention. We said the conditions of wudu are 2 types. There's the general conditions for everyone, and then we said there are conditions for a particular category of people who keep falling into a state of minor impurity. Right? The one who has urinary incontinence, for example, the urine keeps coming out of them. We said that the special 2 conditions were what? That they have to wait for the time to enter, and they have to what? Do it straight away. So dukhul waqt and muwalah. So both types of conditions, the conditions for everyone, and these 2 conditions for the person who's specifically in that situation. I know you're looking at me surprised because you guys are just not reviewing your notes, wallahi. It's a bit pathetic, wallahi. Go on. That's not a condition. We said the intention can't be disconnected. That was a condition. The intention is part of the actual. It was part of the wudu and it's part of the ghusl. We're coming to the intention.
For the person with the incontinence, for example.
So, like I said, whatever I told you was the conditions for all of that for wudu, it's the same for what? It's the same for ghusl. So just go back to your notes, inshallah. So the second thing is what? Is done. The third thing is the furud, the obligations of ghusl. And the obligations of al-ghusl are just 2 things. Number 1, the intention. And number 2, the water has to touch every single part of your body. So what is the intention? The intention is raf'u hadath al-akbar. It can be that you want to uplift major impurity from yourself. It could be what? You want to lift from yourself the state of janaba. Janaba, which is what? When a person has intercourse or they ejaculate. So when a person penetrates or they ejaculate, we call this a state of janaba. It's hadath al-akbar, but that type of hadath al-akbar is called al-janaba. So you can intend uplifting janaba from yourself. A woman can intend uplifting the hadath al-hayd, which is the impure state of impurity she enters because of her menses. Or you could just intend a ghusl which is wajib, al-ghusl wujub, a ghusl which is obligatory for you to do. You can intend any of those things. Does that make sense? So to keep it simple, just intend that you're lifting major impurity from yourself. Or a state of major impurity from yourself. The second condition is ta'meemu jami' al-jasadi bil-ma'. The entirety of your body has to what? the water has to come to it all. Has to be washed with water. You have a question, Talha?
You know how touching the private part with the palm of your hand, it breaks the wudu?
Does it break it whilst you're doing your ghusl?
Yeah.
No. So brother asked a question. Touching the private part with your hand breaks your wudu, right? Does it break your ghusl, for example, whilst you're doing your ghusl? No, the reason it doesn't is because the ghusl is greater than the wudu. So if a person was doing their wudu and they touch their private part, it will break their wudu, right? That's because the wudu is the minor. It uplifts the minor impurity. This is uplifting the major impurity. So the things that would have broken your wudu, this is gonna cancel all of them out. The ghusl is gonna cancel all of those out. The simple answer is no. The water has to touch all of your body. Pay attention. If a person has braids, do they have to undo the braids in their hair? It depends. If the braids are so tight that the water can't get to the scalp and it can't get into all of the hair, then they have to undo the braids. It's called naqd al-dafa'id. They have to open up their braids. But if the braids are not too tight, such that what? The water can get to the scalp, no problem. No problem whatsoever, inshallah. No problem whatsoever. So they can keep their braids tied. Pay attention, you have to observe parts of your body where the water doesn't naturally go to. What I mean by that is when you pour water on yourself, the water will naturally go to your head, it will go to your chest, go to your arms, but it's parts of your body where it won't naturally go. You have to make the water go there yourself. For example, your armpit. If you pour water on yourself, the water won't go here. Does that make sense? You have to lift your arm, you have to make the water go there. Another place the water doesn't naturally go is your belly button. So you have to make sure the water goes to your belly button. Another place the water doesn't naturally go if a person has, for example, folds in their skin. They have to make sure that they lift those folds and the water goes to those folds inside of their skin. Putting the water in your mouth and your nose is not obligatory for ghusl. You know why? Because that's something inside of you. And the ghusl, you're washing the outside. The same reason why we don't wash the eyes. It's not obligatory for you to wash the eyes. Because the ghusl, what's obligatory is washing the outer part of the body, not the inner part of the body. We don't wash our eyes because the eyes, when you close your eyelids, are inside of your body. You just open them. Your mouth is inside of your body. You just open it. So you don't have to rinse your mouth or put the water in your nose, but it's sunnah to do so. Make the water go everywhere. Make the water go everywhere. Some people, they have what? Their toes are very close together. So unless they actually make the water go in between their toes, the water will not go in between their toes. So a person needs to observe this. The folds on their thighs, their stomach, they have to make sure the water goes everywhere. If the water misses, it's a problem. Okay, question. What if you're not certain that the water's gone to every part of your body? What do you do in that situation? You don't have to be certain. It'll be very hard for you to be certain about every speck of water, so every speck of your body being covered by water. So the scholars say you have to have a high assumption. You have to be like, I'm pretty sure the water's gone everywhere. I'm pretty sure the water's gone everywhere. Brothers are standing underneath the shower and they're like, I don't know if the water's gone everywhere. And he spends 20 minutes just bathing himself. A man came to Imam Shafi'iy once. He said, Imam, I'm getting stressed, wudu. I keep doing my ghusl, but I don't know if I've done it properly. So he said, I got to the point where I jumped inside of a river. And I came back. And I was like, I don't know if I've done wudu. So I don't know if I've done my ghusl. And Imam Shafi'i said, you don't have to do ghusl, brother. He said, why? He said, because you're insane. And insane people don't have to do ghusl. Because you went in the water, you dived into the water, and you said, I don't know if I have ghusl. So he said, you brother, you don't have to do it. Does that make sense? So some people are like that. He's washing himself. Brother, you've done it. You've done the job, akhi. Does that make sense? And you have to have high assumption. It doesn't have to be what? It doesn't have to reach certainty. Okay? And that hopefully answers your question. To the point where even if a person just entered into the sea with the intention of doing what? Of ghusl, and he entered the ocean. And the water touched everywhere, then he's done ghusl. Also, I want to mention here that you have to make sure the water goes into your hair, the roots, your whole hair has to be soaked. Also, I want to mention that you don't have to physically take the water with your hand onto your body. You were going to ask that, right? Okay, go on.
Say that if you got eczema or something and like body part, you need to wash that part as well.
Ask me that at the end. Inshallah, ask me that at the end. So, the question I was answering was what? Wallahu musta'an. It was what? The water has to go everywhere. That's the point. And you don't have to be certain it's gone everywhere. You have to just have ghalabatul dhan. You have to have high assumption that it's gone. That's gone everywhere. Gone. Yeah, the rubbing, yeah. So remember we said that there's 4 types of making the water go into your body. There's al-ghusl, which is the water to be poured on your body. There's ad-dalk, which is for you to what? Take the water in, rub it onto your body like this. Does that make sense? There's an-nadh, which is to sprinkle the water. Does that make sense? And what was the 4th one? Al-masih. Okay? Ghusl, what's required is al-ghusl, for the water to reach your body, even if you didn't do it with your hand. Ad-dalk, which is to make it reach your body with your hand. This is sunnah, not obligatory. Only the Maliki madhab said it was wajib. But it's not wajib. It's a sunnah to do that. Does that make sense? So in conclusion, the 2 obligations, the 2 pillars of the ghusl are what? How many are there? 2. Simple. Intention. Keep it simple. We mentioned a few types of intention that you can have to uplift from yourself major state of impurity. Or the state of impurity of the menses. Or the state of impurity of what? Janaba, which is due to ejaculation or penetration. Any one of them and you're good to go on. The second thing is that the water has to touch all of your body. Your hair, everything. The roots of your hair, the scalp, everything. Yes? And by this we don't mean the inner part of the body, i.e. the mouth and the nose or the eyeballs. Even though the mouth and the nose is sunnah. So now we're moving on to the 3rd point, which is the sunan. The sunan of al-ghusl, which is the things that are recommended pertaining to al-ghusl. And the things that are recommended, we mentioned 6 of them. We will mention 6 of them. The first of them is at-tasmiyah, to say the basmalah, to say bismillah. To say bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim at the time before you start your ghusl. Before you start your ghusl. The second thing is to do wudu. Wudu is a part of the sunan. It's from the sunan of al-ghusl. So you don't have to do wudu when you do al-ghusl. A lot of people think you have to do wudu when you do al-ghusl. No. Just letting the water reach all of your body is greater than the wudu. But doing the wudu is sunnah. You get extra reward for it, inshallah. The 3rd sunnah is ad-dalk, which is to actually take the water with your hand and basically let it reach your body by rubbing it on your hand as much as you can. Past your back, you're not going to be able to reach, it's not a problem. If you're having a normal shower without the intention of al-ghusl, then if you need to pray, you would have to do wudu anyway, right? So you can do your wudu in a normal bath, yeah, there's no problem.
What I'm trying to say is, would the shower count as a wudu but it's not?
No. Yes, okay, good. So brother's saying that if you're doing a normal ghusl, would the shower count as a wudu? As in like how you don't have to do wudu when you do a ghusl which is ibadah, a ghusl which is worship. Would you have to do a wudu if you do a ghusl which is just based on personal preference? No, you have to do wudu because there's no intention. There's no intention, right? And the ghusl, even if you did a ghusl, pay attention, it's a very important point. Even if you did a ghusl, for example, like for Friday or for Eid, and what? You did it without doing wudu, it would not count as wudu for you. A lot of people mess this up. They do a ghusl before the Friday prayer without wudu, and then they go and pray the salah. He is not in a state of tahara. Why? Because the intention for that ghusl is that this wudu is for the Friday prayer. It's not because you're in a state of impurity. Does that make sense? So you have to intend that this ghusl is for uplifting my state of impurity. For example, a person does al-ghusl because he's going into ihram. He's going to go do hajj, he's going to ihram. Or he does ghusl for Eid. None of these ghusls are because of a state of impurity. These ghusls of what? Because of the gathering of people, the gathering of the believers. So you can be clean when you gather and you don't, like put someone off with your smell or your bad odor or something. It's for the gathering of the believers, right? And it's for the honor and the sanctity of whatever it is that you're about to do. So then, that doesn't replace your wudu. It's only the obligatory ghusl with the intention that will suffice you from having to do wudu. A recommended ghusl will not suffice you from having to do wudu. Especially what will not suffice from doing wudu is a ghusl which is not even recommended or obligatory. It was just because you were what? You were hot, so you wanted to cool down, or you were sweating, you wanted to what? Clean yourself. You have a question? Oh, straight with you. Sorry.
What if you're in a state of major impurity, it's private, and combine the intentions?
We'll come to it. That's a qawaid al-fiqhiyya. Did he ask to give you guys an answer to that? Did he ask to do it? Did he do it? Did he tell you? He said he'll come to it? That's a different subject. If he said he'll come to it, I'm definitely going to come to it later then, inshallah. Inshallah, he's going to be, that class is going to be starting very soon. I'll leave that for them. Say that again? Okay, good. But I still don't want the answer right now, because it's going to take us off on a tangent. But he went through it, Allah barik. MashaAllah. Okay, good. Now, so the third sunnah is what? Dalk. The fourth sunnah is taqdeem shiq al-ayman. That you wash your right side before you wash your left side. The fifth sunnah is at-tathlith. That you wash each side 3 times. That you wash each side 3 times. The sixth sunnah is at-tartib. To do things in that order. Not that order, but in the correct order. What is the correct order? This is what gets a lot of people confused. In order for you to get the correct order, I'm going to mention to you 12 points. Write them down. Step by step by step by step. This is not obligatory. This is just sunnah. You do these 12 steps, you got the sunnah when you did your ghusl. In terms of order. Does that make sense? But in terms of obligation, it's just how many things? 2. One is the action of the heart, the intention. One is the action of the body, which is what? The ghusl. Or the speech of the heart, you can say. Okay, so and we mentioned the sunnah 6. The 6th one is tartib, order. What is the order? 12 points. The first point is that you start with the tasmiyah. You say Bismillah. That's the first thing. Write this down quickly, I'm going to go through it quickly, okay? The second thing is you wash your 2 hands. You wash your 2 hands. The third thing is you wash your private parts and that which is around your private parts. Okay? You wash your private parts and that which is around your private parts. Why do you wash your hands first and then you wash your private parts after? Because you may have what? You may have something unclean on your hands. So first let your hands be clean and then what? You go and you clean your private parts. Then the fourth thing you do is al-madmada wal-istinshaq. You put the water what? Al-madmada in your mouth and you rinse and in your nose and then you put it out. Does that make sense? The 5th thing is now you do al-wudu. Now you do al-wudu. Number 5. Number 6, make sure you make the water go this point. Get it out the way now as the 6th point to all the places of the body that are hard to reach. The belly button, the armpits, the parts underneath the rolls, perhaps on one's thigh, on one's stomach. Does that make sense? Any places that are hard to reach. Now what do? You get them now. You get them now before you pour the water all on your body. The 7th thing that you do is what? You run your fingers through your hair and you separate your hair. You run your fingers through your hair. Does that make sense? To the roots, you get to the roots of your hair. Does that make sense? So you run your fingers through the roots of your hair. Just open up your hair. Does that make sense? As much as you can. And then what do? Then you take water and you pour it on your head. You can do it with a shower head. You can put the water in your hand. You can have a bucket and pour it over it. However you want to pour water on your head without being excessive and wasting water, you pour the water on your head. Second? That's the 8th thing. That's the 8th thing. The ninth thing is that now you start to what? Wash your right side. And when you wash your right side, you wash the front of your right side and you wash the back of your right side. That's both of them, yeah? Then you go to what? You go to your left side. When you go to your left side, the left side, by the way, now we're on number 10. The right side is number 9, left side is number 10. You wash your left side, the front and the back. Does that make sense? And you repeat that 3 times. You do each side, 3, 3. And then the 12th and final thing is al-muwala. You do it consecutively. Al-muwala, which is consecutiveness, is not obligation, but it's a sunnah. And the evidence for this, by the way, is the hadith in Sahih Muslim. It's muttafaqun alayhi in Bukhari Muslim, but it's also, for example, it's also in the Sahih. It's also in, this is the wording of the Sahih Muslim, where the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, she said, إِذَا اغْتَسَلَ مِنَ الْجَنَابَةِ يَبْدَأُ فَيَغْسِلُ يَدَيْهِ. He washed his hand first, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ثُمَّ يُفْرِغُ بيمينه على شماله فيغسل فرجه ثم يتوضأ ثم يأخذ الماء. The narration goes on and he mentions the order. Does that make sense? I'm going to take questions at the end, brothers, because we're really behind for this one, yeah? So now we've taken 4 points out of the 5 we wanted to take. We took what the things that make the ghusl wajib. There were 6. We took the conditions of the ghusl and we said this is everything that we took in wudu. The conditions of wudu, they apply here. Then we took number 3, the furud, the obligations of wudu. And there were 2. Then we took the sunnah of wudu. Sorry, al-ghusl. Al-ghusl, yeah. I said wudu actually. We took the sunnah of al-ghusl and we said there were 6 that we mentioned. We're not saying there's only 6, there's 6 that we mentioned. And the 6th one broke into how many points? 12. Now we're going to come to the 5th and final thing, which is what? ما الذي يحرم على الجنب أو يحرم على الجنب. What is it that is haram upon the person who is what? In a state of major ritual impurity. He's in a state of hadath al-akbar. She requires the ghusl. So which means she or he has fallen into one of the what? One of the 6 mentioned. They fall into one of the first 6. Now they fall into one of the first 6. Some things are haram for them now. What is haram for them? The first thing that we say is haram is everything that was haram on the one who didn't have wudu. How many things did we say were not haram on the one who did wudu? Too late, wallahi. None of you all failed that, wallahi. Should just say it quickly. 4 things. Salah, tawaf, touching the mushaf and carrying the mushaf. Brothers, wallahi, it's very bad, man. Wallahi. Wallahi, it's very bad. The things that make the wudu haram, they make what? The things that are haram to do when you have wudu, also haram to do when you need to do ghusl, sorry. The things that are haram when you need to do wudu are also haram when you need to do al-ghusl. So go back and check your notes. The 2 extra things is what? Sorry? But isn't salah haram for the one who needs to do wudu? The 2 extra things which are haram for the one who needs to do ghusl is what? Staying in the masjid. Staying in the masjid and what? Reciting the what? Al-Quran. Staying in the masjid and reciting the Quran. Okay. So touching the mushaf was what? Haram for the one who needs to do wudu. But he can recite Quran. The one who needs to do ghusl definitely can't touch the mushaf. But now they can't even read the Quran. Unless what is it they want to do? Dhikr. A verse from the Quran, but the intention is dhikr. Or whatever have you. Okay, staying in the masjid. I'm going to come to the sisters that are on their menses. I'm going to come to the sisters who are on their menses and address that in a second, inshallah. But what? Staying in the masjid. If a man is in a state of what? Major ritual impurity, because maybe he had a wet dream in the masjid or whatever have you, It can't be in the masjid. But what some of the Sahaba used to do was that they would do wudu, if that happened to them, to lessen the impurity, or the state of impurity. So if you're in the masjid, you want to stay in the masjid and you can't have a shower, just go do wudu to lessen it. A woman who's on her menses, if she can ensure that the blood will not come out and make the carpet what? And the masjid, which is place of purity, it won't make it impure, then no problem, she can come as well. No problem, she can inshallah come as well. Does that make sense? If she can ensure, and I think most women can. Back in the days, maybe they couldn't have ensured it like that. But nowadays, women they have undergarments. The undergarments, they've got things that they can put in their undergarments to ensure that what? The impurity doesn't come out. Does that make sense? So, and there are many evidences to show that this is, inshallah, the strongest view. The hadith that is used usually to say women cannot come to the masjid when they're on their menses has a woman in there that's weak. There's a narrator in that hadith which is weak. Does that make sense? Has a narrator which is weak. So that hadith is not authentic. And there are many evidences to show and suggest that what? It's allowed for a woman to come to the masjid even on her menses. For example, there was a woman who stayed in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ and the Prophet built a tent for her. A tent was built for her. Does that make sense? A tent was built for her. So when a woman, and she stayed in there for a long time. Every woman, a woman comes into a period. So would she have not been coming into a period? No. There's many evidences to suggest that a woman can come to the masjid even when she's on her menses. Condition is, just make sure that the blood is not going to come out and contaminate the place of prayer, because the place of prayer has to be tahir, has to be free from impurities. Does that make sense? And what I've just given you here is based on what seems to be the strongest view, not necessarily the view of the madhab. Not necessarily the view of the madhab, but it's just what? It's the strongest view based on evidences. But the reason I mentioned that, because sisters need to know the answer right now. Otherwise, we said we're not really deviating from the madhab too much. Remember we said that. We're going to stick to the madhab so we don't complicate things. We're not going to difference of opinion. Because we know some sisters, they come to lessons, they come to class. So are they not going to come now that they're on their menses? No, inshallah you can. As long as you can ensure that the blood will not come out. And I think that's pretty normal in this day and age for most women to ensure that the blood will not come out, inshallah. Brothers, I'll be honest, I don't really feel like going and doing the next class, the 19th. I can't lie, I'm just a bit disappointed and my mind's not with it. I'm just a bit frustrated. And I don't want to keep increasing the proof of Allah against you. This knowledge is proof of Allah, is a proof against you on the Day of Judgment. What you learn, you have to implement it, you have to revise it. Does that make sense? There's no point coming and you're not reviewing your notes. If you're not reviewing your notes, it means you're not implementing it. If you don't memorize these 12 points for the Sunnah of the order of the Ghusl, you're not going to do it. You're going to come to do your Ghusl and you're going to be like, what do I do? What do I do? You forgot it because you didn't review it. Does that make sense? And these are not small things that we're forgetting. These are big things. Now, how can you forget the 4 things that break your wudu? It's not on. That's not on. That's you need that every day. Do you see? For not one person to be able to put their hand up and answer the question, it's a bit disappointing. It's very disappointing. Go home, inshallah. Subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.